So anyways, let's talk about what we've been working on. What I've been working on the last couple of weeks, you can kind of see boxes back here. It's like this big mess back here. Oh man, I have two videos in flight. This is the first time where I've really tried to do two at once, and I'm doing two at once because I have a couple of commitments to a big brand, that I'll have a video out by a certain time. It's a sponsored video, and I'm super excited about it. But at the same time, I thought, yeah, while I'm going back and forth with them, I'll just work on my second video. And that's what that does is it ends up tying up both videos. So there might be two released close to each other. So anyways, that's what I've been working on. And then on top of that, I have a lot of other stuff. Like that stuff I was talking about isn't even this stuff. And so this stuff I have to get to too. I'm super excited about this stuff right here. Both things in this box I absolutely cannot wait for. And it goes into my new server rack, my mini rack that's down here. And that's only down here for now. I can't wait to get that done, not only just to show you guys, but at the same time, it'll get all of that stuff into that server rack. And then that server rack will be over here. And then my big PC and tower case system I have going on over here will be gone. And so, yeah. So anyways, lots of upgrades coming soon. So anyways, yeah, that's what I've been working on. It's a lot of stuff. Man, I realized going full-time content creation it's more work than when I was doing it part-time. That's for sure. Because I get to dive a little bit deeper, put a lot more, not that I wasn't before, but putting some more effort into my videos and then working with some brands that I'm super, super excited to be working with. So anyways, that's what I've been working on. Boring admin stuff. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, if you got something you want to share, throw it in chat and we'll talk about it. Look, let's get into events and stuff that happened right before the stream. I'll call these out. There were some follows, there were some bits and follows and subs. So I'll call them out for sure. Let me start from just a little bit before the stream. PC Onti. Defer Panic. It's Magai. It's Magai and Kaziak Lasik. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Trevor has resub tier 1, 21 months, 16 month streak. All right. Thanks, Trevor. What's up, Tim? Starting a new project, moving some services from VMs to run Kubernetes using Tanzu for my flavor of Kubernetes since I have vSphere running in a HomeLab. I will start with moving Bitwarden to Kubernetes. Awesome, man. That's one, that's awesome. Two, that's a huge leap. I know for you, you're new to Kubernetes. I know you've been talking about Tanzu. I think that's ES or VMware's distribution of Kubernetes. So super cool. Nice to be able to hear more about that. I would love to hear more about that. But that's awesome, man. Going from VMs to Kubernetes. Well, yeah, you'll have to let me know how it goes. It can be tough. Especially in the beginning, because in the beginning, you almost need everything to make it work. But if you can get through the beginning, I think you're going to be fine. And what I mean by that is, like, in the beginning, if you're setting up and self-hosting Kubernetes, you need to figure out what you're going to use for your load balancers, what you're going to use for your certificates, what you're going to use for storage. Like, there's a lot of things in the beginning that you will probably need to set up and that you'll probably need and can be frustrating to get working for the first time. But after that, I promise it gets a lot easier. So if you can just power through that and get that working, I think you're going to love it, especially for running, services that you want up or highly available in your cluster. So awesome. Thank you again for the sub. 18 Will Ray, how's it going, man? Resub, tier 3, 16 months. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. How's it going, Ray? Good to see you. Good to see you in chat. How's it going? All right, yeah, let's hop into chat. Like I was mentioning, if you got something you want to share, let's talk about it. Today might be a little bit shorter, but we'll see. Depending on how chat goes, we'll see. But also, I have something to do at 4-ish my local time, which is about in 45 minutes. So I'll stay longer if I can, for sure. Me testing. There's my test message. Hey, how's it going? EDNZ live. Hey, yep. It's working. Zoid, it's working. Thank you. EDNZ. Hello. Howdy. Lots of lows. How's everyone doing? What are you guys doing this Saturday? What? Yeah, I want to know. Little cousin, hello. And then again for Git Day, how we all doing? Hey, Matt, how's it going? Hey. Real quick, Panic Switch, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Matt, hey, how's it going? Matt Curles, welcome back to a Saturday stream. We missed you. How's it going, Matt? Good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. I know Matt IRL, and things have changed, and so I don't get to see or talk to Matt as much. But good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, back on Saturday for today only. I think Saturday is going to be my fallback because my Fridays is my dedicated stream day now. Still working on the time, anywhere between 11 and 1, and still working that out. But now that I'm also doing things full time for content, I might have meetings or stuff I need to that cut into it. So I don't know. Got to block off my schedule and make sure that no one schedules meetings over my Twitch stream. But for the most part, still gonna say Fridays. It's been pretty well received. 18 Wheel Ray, what's up, everyone? Let's see. Good day. Hey Tim, thank you for streaming on Saturday at this time. I can catch the live stream. All right. So it was a happy little accident, as Bob Ross would say. Happy little accident. Well, good day. Good to see you. Good to see you. Zoid 25. Trevor, how's Tanzu Kubernetes treating you? Yeah, I'm curious too. And curious what exactly VMware does to where they need to build their own flavor of Kubernetes. I assume it's integration with ESXi. I assume that's what it is. That they can add their own providers and drivers and stuff like that to automatically provision nodes and stuff like that. But I think those things out there exist. So yeah, I'm curious why they built their own. But I'm sure it's that. I'm sure it's a lot of them baking in all the stuff that they do. And that's why a lot of people create distributions or libraries or anything like that. It's because they want to take care of their own. Let's see. Clear Blue, holy guacamole. I was just watching the YouTube video about the 3-nut cluster. Hey, I'm glad you clicked on that link and landed here. Clear for blue. Ooh, my head's itching. Sorry. Glad you made it here. The 3-nut cluster, K3S cluster. Yeah, it's super fun. That, spoiler alert, if you haven't finished the video, I am actually running that now in my HomeLab. So in that video, I said, hey, I might switch over to these. Well, I switched over to 2 of them. So I took down 2 of my 1U servers, replaced them with Intel NUC, 1-to-1 on VMs, and it's running, and I'm saving 200 watts of power, a little over 100 watts of power for each server that I shut down. So I'm saving that much. That's real power savings. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Bill Nash, how's it going? Resub, tier 1, 17 months. Bill Nash, sup nerd. Oh, I said the sup nerds, and you didn't put the sup nerds. I was expecting it, man. How's it going? Thanks for the resub, tier 1. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Banana, yeah, testing my banana command. If banana's working, that means the bots are working. Let's see. Trevor, hey, dude, Takano, how's it going, man? Resub Prime, 33 months. 33 months, messing with some airbrushing. All right, man. How's it going? Takano, thanks for the continued support. Almost 3 years, man. How's it going? I'm sure you have a lot of cool stuff going on. It says you're messing with some airbrushing, and I'm sure this is all part of your plan of things you're building and making and selling. So hopefully it's going well, man. Let's see. So Trevor says, I've just spun up the platform and and got Harbor running. Now just need to find what VMs to migrate from VMs to containers. Yeah. So so you're going through a pretty common exercise once people decide that they want Kubernetes. And so my only one, Harbor seems awesome. So if you're not familiar with Harbor's a self-hosted container registry that you can run and host your own container images, so you don't have to pull from Docker or GitHub or wherever. And not only so you could host your own, but you could set up like pass-through cache and have them whatever container images you're using on your local prem and cache them there, so that you don't always have to pull from Docker, especially if you run into API limits. It's a great use case for it, even if you're not going to host your own. Anyways, that aside, so I know you said you need to figure out what VMs to migrate to containers. What I typically do, when I went through this exercise a long time ago, I was kind of in that mode too. Okay, this VM, what do I need on this container? Start thinking about like services. So what services do you run? And the reason why I say that is because what the heck was that? Wow, that was loud. I think I know what that was. when someone redeems something. I don't know. I've turned that down because that scared the heck out of me. I thought like, whoa, like someone is in my house playing something. Anyways, I think I turned that sound down. But anyways, going back to that. So when you start thinking about migrating stuff to Kubernetes, think more about the services that are running. I'll break down a really quick example. Like for, say, WordPress, even though it's kind of a complicated example, WordPress needs WordPress running, which technically is Apache and all this other stuff, or can be Nginx. But anyways, WordPress and then a MySQL database, or MySQL database. And so when you think about that from a VM, you might have that running both on the same VM, and you could migrate that to a container, and you use a container. Well, no. So then that's actually a good use case. So you might have your database and your MySQL service running on the same VM, but when you migrate that to Kubernetes, you're going to break that out, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to run a container that's WordPress and a container that's the database, and you'll have to set those up separately. So that's why I was just a quick call out. When you start thinking about it, don't think about it so much as like VMs, what you're going to migrate. Think about it as services, because if you think about it as services, if you do spin up MySQL and WordPress in your Kubernetes cluster, you might get to the next service that you're using, and that might also use MySQL. Now, you're not going to do that same thing again because you already have MySQL running in your cluster, so now you just have to migrate the other thing. So I would look at it like that. Take inventory of the services you have running. And my piece of advice, go with something dead simple first. Dead simple first. I know that you said you wanted to, I think it was Bitwarden. Maybe not simple, just depends. I don't think it's that simple in terms of what I'm thinking. Go with something ultra simple, like an Nginx Hello World web page, and that's it. Just an Nginx container, just to make sure that you can get it right. And it does require a load balancer, but it doesn't require anything else special, storage, config, secrets, any of this stuff. And so I would go with that first and try something. Nginx container, Hello World container. And if you get that going, I think the rest will start to fall in place. So yeah. So anyways, I don't mean to deep dive on that one topic, but yeah, sounds awesome. Sounds fun. You got a lot of work ahead of you, but a lot to learn too. Zoid, nice. Yeah. How's it going? PC Geek, how's it going? I see PC Geek, Clear Blue. Let's see. Let's see you next. PC Geek, New Shaky. New Shaky. Is it because my camera's shaking? I'm trying not to touch anything. Because the way that things are mounted here on my desk, things do shake. So I'm like trying not to touch as much. So if things get shaky, it's not my house, it's my camera mount. That's all getting fixed here soon too. On top of everything that you're, network-wise that I'm in and infrastructure-wise that I'm fixing, I'm also kind of redoing my whole entire desk space and that space back there too. So I'm super excited about it. And hopefully I can stop the shakiness. I know what I need to do. We'll see if my new mounting system will help out with that. So, Ilud, resub, tier 1, 35 month streak. Dude, Ilud, thank you so much. Appreciate it, man. Almost 3 years. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it. How are you doing? Good to see you. Sunday for you. That is true. It could be Sunday for some folks. So, hope you're having a great early Sunday then. If you're on here. 18-Wheel Ray, what's up? Be here for you, dude. Thanks again. 18-Wheel Ray, I installed a new rack that closes and slimmed down from the big rack. I saw that. We've been talking a little bit in Discord. I think, some of my videos and some of other creators' videos have been talking about, a lot of low power options. And I think a lot of people are realizing like, hey, I can get by on something that's low power. And so a lot of people have been either downsizing or reducing the large servers they have and replacing them with one or more smaller desktop class systems and using them as a server, as I do. I've done it for years. I've always had a Intel NUC in my server cluster. For a while I was running Proxmox, and then I upgraded and got a couple more, and now they're still running Proxmox. It's a great hypervisor. Intel NUC is a great platform for a hypervisor. But But yeah, so so a lot of people are talking about that. You were talking about in Discord, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think you have. I want to say you have HP 1 liters. I can't remember if it's that or Dell. But either way, all the same. With all things being equal, I mean, you're just going from a server class processor and a server, an enterprise server down to almost a desktop PC, low power one. And for most people, I think they'll be surprised at how fast it really is. Like I mentioned earlier, my Intel NUCs, I'm running 6 virtual machines on one Intel NUC. Do I have ZFS? No. Do I have ECC? No. Do I have 10 gig networking? No. I know people are probably like, whoa, who is this guy? But that was kind of the trade-off. And I'm in this mode now. I'm kind of dog fooding like the whole Kubernetes mantra, where I'm going to start treating more things like cattle than pets. And so I've always done that with my services. Now I might start doing that with my hardware too. And so, instead of buying one beefy server, I'll buy small ones, low power ones. And then if I need more compute or more RAM, I won't scale up those things. I'll scale out and just add one more low power machine to my cluster. So it's kind of where I'm at. I know that doesn't work in all situations. Like, hey, I need a video card for one thing. I have a TrueNAS for another thing, and that's why I still have my Storinator running. It's kind of playing that role of, hey, I get PCI Express ports. I get ECC RAM. I can pass through cards. So I still have one server, my Storinator, up and going, but my one user kind of powered off for now. I've been debating even selling them. I don't want to, but I've been debating it because it's like the longer I hold on to it, the less they're worth in the long run. So I'm trying to figure this out. But anyways, they're there on standby just in case. They're on call. My servers are on call. Let's see. Hey, Squids, how's it going? Love the interactivity. First time being here. Hey, welcome. Unique Live. That's what I'm going. Unique Live. Sorry. I like pronouncing names wrong until I continue to pronounce them wrong and give up. So I apologize. Redstone Gamers. Hey, Tim. I've been recently enjoying your content over the last few years. Thank you. I'm looking forward to meeting you at 45 Drives. Hey, Redstone Games. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, well, hey, spoiler alert. Not that you did it. I just wasn't sure when I should say stuff or if I can say stuff. But yeah, so Redstone Games, I assume you work for 45 Drives. I don't know. But spoiler alert, or heads up, I should say, because it's not a real spoiler. 45 Drives did invite me out to their headquarters. I am going out to the headquarters in 2 weeks. They have a 45 Drive Summit, and they've invited other creators. I'll be there with Wendell, Jeff Geerling, Jeff from Craft Computing, and then me. It's like I feel like there are these giants there, and then there's me, and so I'm like, I don't know. So, anyways, it's gonna be pretty awesome. I'm super pumped to go out there. Little intimidated, not gonna lie, because the people that work at 45 Drives are super smart. I mean, like 45 Drives folks know storage, they know compute, they know building out huge, massive arrays, they know Ceph, they know Proxmox, they know like everything. And then I got Wendell in there, and then I got Jeff Geerling, and then Jeff from Craft Computing, and I'm just like, oh man, then there's me. Maybe I'm there for the comic relief. I don't know. Anyways, Redstone Gamers, looking forward to meeting you. I'm so looking forward to everyone that I've talked to offline from 45 Drives. It's going to be super exciting, and super excited to go to Nova Scotia. I've never been there. I've been a lot of places in Canada. I've been west in Vancouver. I lived in Toronto for a while, and I've never been in Nova Scotia or Montreal. And actually, I have a connecting flight back through Montreal on the way back. Not enough time to actually explore Montreal. But nonetheless, I can say that I've landed there before. Anyways, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. Avalanche Master, I installed 2.5 gig networking between my NAS to my main gaming editing rig. Awesome. Yeah, 2.5 gig I think is more than enough for a lot of people. I'm still so surprised that the industry kind of like settled on 2.5 rather than just go to 10 gig. I'm sure it's a cost thing. or it's probably a technical reason too. I don't know. But the jump from 1 gig to 2.5 is interesting to me because it's like, like one, it's better than, hey, we just went to 2, it's 2.5, whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, well, some machines are shipping with 10 gig, Ethernet. So I don't know. But anyways, I'm not downplaying 2.5 because I love 2.5. My Nux have 2.5, and they have a gig and 2.5. I'm only using a gig now, but I'm gonna connect them to a 2.5 gig switch. I'm already having buyer's remorse on my brand new switch because I bought a 48 port PoE switch with only 1 gig. And I bought that because I had buyer's remorse from getting the 24 port. Yeah. The more I do this, the more I realize buy the best thing in its class of what you want, because then you won't have remorse, and the money you think you saved, you'll forget about. That's kind of where I'm at now. So yeah, my Unify switch. Oh man, Unify, if you're listening, hook me up. send me that Enterprise 2.5 48 port switch, and I'll give away my current 48 port PoE switch. If I could get my hands on that one, I'd totally do it. But anyways, yeah, so 2.5, awesome. I can't wait to get my Nux on 2.5. And it's not because they need it on a day-to-day. It would just help my backups go a little bit quicker. I mean, backups just take longer, which isn't a big deal. But I feel like if my machines have 2.5, I should be using 2.5 too. And my download internet speed will never, I have 600 up and down. I could go to gig, I could go to 10 gig, but I'm not paying for it. But anyways, yeah, awesome. Well, I hope it goes well. You'll have to let me know how you like 2.5 for networking, especially, and for NAS too. And you say you're doing, it's your editing rig that needs 2.5, and I would love to be there. I'm gonna try to get 10 gig to my machine, not because I think I need 10 gig, and that 2.5 gig wouldn't do it, but my SFP plus, my SFP plus ports, I have 10 gig Ethernet modules for it. So I'm kind of already there. If I had a long DAC, I would totally do it, but I don't think that'll work. Hey, Nesh Codes. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. G'day. Got a question. Is there a recommended setup for K3S publishing content on the web? Should you apply the same principles as setting up a VM in the DMZ? Should you separate K3S clusters in the DMZ? So yes, kind of all the above. I'm going to take out DMZ because DMZ is kind of a weird area. And so I don't, I'll just put it this way. If you're going to be hosting stuff in K3S, and you're not doing it in the cloud, you're doing it self-hosting, treat those nodes where content run as untrusted. Because what you're going to end up doing is port forwarding port 443 to your load balancer that's exposed on that cluster. And yes, your port forwarding rules should work, but if for some reason someone could, compromise that system where that container is running, highly unlikely, but maybe they could, you want to be sure that you limit that blast radius. So what I do is I set up VLAN. So I have this untrusted VLAN specifically for things that have incoming network requests from the internet, and they all live there. And I just treat those as I don't even trust them. I don't trust them. I'm throwing them on, I'm throwing them on a different VLAN. Nothing can get to those. Those can't get in. And so I throw those all there. You could take it one step further and then separate out your servers, or formerly known as master servers. You could separate those out and put those on a different VLAN, and then only allow 6443 and 443, whatever it is, between those two. Anyways, long story short, treat all those nodes that run workloads for K3S as untrusted. Don't put them anywhere on your local network. Because if for some reason one of those got compromised, you wouldn't want that person that compromised that system, or that system that's compromised, to be on the same network as yours. So I have I talk about a lot of this in my self-hosting guide. If you look at that and just instead of VM, or instead of whatever your scope is, VM or container, if your scope is VM, if you just think of that as container, or the virtual machine running those containers, If you just apply all those same rules, you're in a good spot. So yeah, I that's for me personally. I don't allow anything incoming to any of my trusted networks. It's just like, okay, if I put the time up front to put those rules in place and those firewall rules and put those VLANs in place, I sleep a little bit easier. And so, you're going to have to make some tough judgment calls at some point. You are, because like, hey, do you allow incoming Plex to your NAS or to wherever Plex is running? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, well, do you want your whole entire storage system then to be on this untrusted network? Yes, no, maybe. Like, those are things you're going to have to think through, and you're going to have to accept some risk at some point. So, it's that's just part of the game. It's just risk management, and how much risk are you willing to accept? Because, there are some wrong answers, but there are some gray area answers too. And it really depends on, what you value in protecting. So, Mr. Self-Destruct, hey, thanks for the Prime sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Kira, hey, what's up, boys? How's it going? EDNZ. Hey, it's Ed. I'm just going to go with Ed. That's a little bit easier. Ed, hey, I've been deploying OpenStack stuff for the last week. DNS designate is working. VM cluster is working. Central logging for all the clusters. Next on the list is DB as a service and LB as a service. Wow, that sounds awesome. So OpenStack, you got it running. Got DNS running. VM clusters working. Central logging. Awesome. That sounds all awesome. Next on the list is DB. I assume that's database as a service. Database, DBAS, I assume. Database as a service. And then LBAS, load balancer as a service, maybe, kind of, sort of. That sounds awesome. I keep wanting to look into OpenStack. I just don't have the time. I would love to at some point. It seems pretty like the people who use it love it. And, there are a lot of companies using it. And I should probably look at it at some point. I've kind of settled on, my stack is, Proxmox and then Kubernetes. But maybe it'd be awesome to look into OpenStack at some point. So awesome. Let me grab a drink. I'm like yelling. I went from saying like 10 words today to yelling. Oh, okay. Trevor, effectively, that's the speed of OC48 circuit. I don't even know what an OC48 circuit is. I'm going with Uni. Uni, I was stupid enough to think my HomeLab should be done the right way from the very start and wanted to host my applications on high availability Kubernetes clustered. Followed your guide, but have been stuck for weeks. Yeah, I know that can be tough, and I think HA is somewhere I don't want to say graduate to, because it might not be in your progression. It might just be an alternative. So I don't want you to think like, hey, I was running in VMs. Now I need to graduate to containers. Now I need to graduate to Kubernetes. I think really those are different choices and different options that you have. And you might be fine running it in VMs. Totally fine. That's what you want to do. That's totally fine. A lot of people do that. A lot of businesses do that, depending on scale. I mean, you just have a different set of challenges you need to solve when you need to scale or when you need to migrate, different set of challenges. Not wrong, just different. And same with Docker containers. You might say, hey, I want to consolidate all of my hardware onto one machine, but I want my services and containers isolated. So I'm going to use Docker, and that's totally fine too. Some businesses still do that. A lot of people still do that. I don't want you to think that Kubernetes is like graduating. I mean, it kind of is in like architecture wise and maybe a mindset, but that doesn't have to be your path. That doesn't have to be your path. You don't have to say like, okay, like, unless you're saying like, I'm bored with Docker. I totally want to rip out all my stuff and like learn a whole bunch of, industry stuff. Yeah, let's do it. But I would say what I always say is just, build the thing that you feel comfortable supporting, because at the end of the day, it's going to be people in your home who maybe depend on this service, and then you, the one that has to support it. And so I've made mine way overly complicated, but at the same time, making it, designing it the way that I did with, with either Kubernetes and whatever, gives me, it gives me a lot of options for scaling and for failover. And so for me, that's what I valued. I wanted to make sure that if I go and patch, my whole entire Proxmox server and bring that whole thing down, that my services continue to run, because there's another replica of those services running on Proxmox 2 when one is down. And so I have 3 Proxmox servers, 3 different clusters, 1 Proxmox cluster, 3 Kubernetes clusters. And so I want to be sure that if I shut one whole machine down, things will still run. So anyways, if you're stuck for weeks, that kind of stinks. I would say, just get familiar with one stack, use that until you get bored. For sure. Picanti. Oh, thank you. Picanti. I got it. At first I was like, what is pecan? And why would you get a t-shirt from Pecan? I get it. I get it. Okay, I like PC Onti, but I will go with Picanti. I like it. Picanti. Seriously, I was like, what is the pecan? I didn't get invited to the pecan. And I want a t-shirt. Ed, and started looking at alternatives for HashiCorp tools I use following the license changes. Unfortunately, yeah, another business changes their licensing to business. I don't even know what it's called. Bizzle, for shizzle, Bizzle, BSL, business software license. I don't know what it is. Anyways, yeah. So HashiCorp changed their licensing, and I think people are looking for alternatives. There's one alternative that's out there that was all over those comments. If you saw it on Twitter, HashiCorp announced their license change, and then one of their competitors was all over the comments. And if you look, I forget who the company is. You can probably figure it out. But yeah, that's I don't know. It's tough times we're living in for tech. Hey, Master Torch, thanks for the Prime sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for subscribing and supporting the channel. I appreciate it. I try to be, open about a lot of stuff. I do see things from both ways. You got companies who explain it one way and you're like, yeah, I see. I totally get it. And then you have customers explaining what their challenges are to the reasoning as to why they need this specific license. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. It's a tough situation. I know that a lot of tech, it's a tough year for tech. It's a tough year for tech. If you have a job in tech, you're very fortunate, but a lot of changes are going on and have been going on. And a lot of companies aren't making as much money as they used to. And so that's forced them to think about a different business model. So I don't know. And then I think I'm not going to speculate, but at the same time, there's a lot of fear that, like, hey, if our license is a certain way, someone else can use our stuff and make a lot of money on all the work we did. And so I don't think that's right. So anyways, I'm just speculating and kind of observing and regurgitating what I've observed. I'm not there behind closed doors to hear those discussions, but from the outside looking in, it's a red flag. It's a red flag for anyone doing this. Hey, Uni, dude, thanks for the sub. Tier 1, thank you so much. Appreciate it. PC Geek, all right, 100 bits. Thank you so much. Let's get this train running. Choo-choo. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, so on the outside looking in, whenever you see stuff like this, like people changing their business model, people changing their licensing model, people changing their ad rev model, it's usually a red flag for something's not good or something's not great. And so now they need to change something, otherwise things will drastically change. So I think even though this seems like a drastic change, this is probably a drastic change for a lot of the consumers of this, of their services or of their open source libraries. But the ultimate drastic change they're probably trying to avoid is going out of business. So who knows? I'm speculating, but anytime you see stuff like that, instead of like companies going and creating value and reinforcing as to why they should choose them and going after like the pennies and trying to, maintain what they have, that's where things feel a little bit weird. So I don't know. I'm not privy to all those discussions, but yeah, it's It's tough for tech. I'll just say that. It's tough for tech. It's tough for tech everywhere. Piconti. I got it right. Piconti this time. Thanks for the shout out. No problem. Thank you so much. Let's see. Kira. Hey, dude. Crack Kitty. Hey, thanks so much. Prime resub. 21 months. Let's go. Yeah, I got the hype train going. Thank you so much. I turned down the weird noise that was blasting in my ears. Maybe I should turn it up just a little bit. I won't. But dude, Crack Kitty, thank you so much. Dude, absolute value. Cheered 100 bits. Dude, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh, level 2 hype train. I like it. I can see this stuff now. I'm still working on a one monitor. I've been using one 4K monitor for about, I'd say 2-3 months now. And I'm almost to the point where I'm used to it, which, I don't know, kind of sucks. But at the same time, I'm glad it's 4K because that gives me some more screen real estate. But anyways, long story short, I can see all 4 screens on here. I think I'm gonna go with an ultra wide. I think I'm gonna go with an ultra wide, and so I sold all my 1440p monitors, and so I just have one 4K, and I think I'm gonna go with a massive ultra wide on the bottom and one 4K on the top. While I don't want 2 monitors, and I really don't want the 4K on top, I realize that, doing a lot of screen recordings like I do for my tutorials, it's still nice to have a dedicated monitor that is the resolution you're recording so that I don't have to play, games with cutting and trimming and cropping things and setting up fancy zones and all that stuff to record my tutorials. So anyways, that's why I had 1440p monitors for a long time, because I used to do all my stuff in 1440p, and I realized too late when doing YouTube stuff that it's always best to have one monitor. If you're doing tutorials and screen captures, it's best to have one monitor at the native resolution, because then you don't have to do any conversion. It's already there. You don't have to do anything special at all. So anyways, dude, thank you guys for the subs and the bits. Yeah, let's go. Kira, is Tanzu free? Is Tanzu or Tanzu? I want to say Tanzu, but it's probably Tanzu. Who knows? I had ESXi before and knew about Phantom OS from VMware. Read about Tanzu, but didn't know if it were free. I don't know. Most likely I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm me speculating, knowing nothing about it. Most of the time when you do Kubernetes distributions, they're open source and free. I could be wrong, but most of the time things like that are open source and free. Whether or not you can integrate them back into their management platform, that's a different question. And don't quote me on it being free. Tanzu's license. All right, solved. I was totally wrong. So it must not be a one-to-one Kubernetes distribution. It's probably like some service bolt-on that you bolt on to it, and you do it through their admin consoles, and you magically get it. I wonder if it's still open source though, like on VMware's GitHub, but there's like no way to integrate it. But anyways. Let's see. Uni, would you run traffic as a reverse proxy and certificates in your home network in a Kubernetes cluster? Yes, I would. I mean, do I? Yes. I run multiple versions of traffic, and it is my reverse proxy, and that's a long story as to why I run 3. But anyways, yes. I mean, I do. So I need so I use traffic as my ingress controller. What that does is create a Kubernetes ingress to allow traffic in, and then that ingress is bound to MetaLB, something that is like your load balancer. And so when I create an ingress through traffic, it creates a MetaLB IP, and then I use traffic for a reverse proxy to then route all my traffic based on HTTP headers and stuff like that. So yeah, I do. And my certificates, I use Cert Manager. I have lots of videos on that. So if you're wanting to do it in Kubernetes, just Google or go to technotim.live and just type in Cert Manager and traffic. I think that Cert Manager is the best way to do it if you're going to do it, mainly because it keeps your certificates as they're custom resource definitions, basically. They're first-class citizens inside of Kubernetes, and they're stored like secrets versus stored as a file. And the reason why you want them stored as secrets versus a file is because when they're secrets, they can be shared and scaled across multiple pods, which means you can run, traffic in HA versus if it's just a file, you can't because, you have one file system that connects to one pod for traffic. So anyways, yeah, I do. It's fun. It's been working great. I've been running it since traffic 1.4 or something, and it's fantastic. Works great. 18-wheel Ray, looking at buying a few Raspberry Pis. Good luck. Those are hard to get a hold of. Yeah, I still have a couple laying around here. But yeah, they're getting easier to get a hold of, but they're more expensive for sure. Then there's always the value prop that I kind of go back to now, with low-powered x86 devices getting super cheap, and on top of that, giving you lots of capabilities. The value prop for Pis is getting tough for me now. I get it if you're doing something embedded or robotics or something, that really only needs to consume 2-3 watts of power, like especially something solar battery powered or something like that, or needs to be ultra light. But if you don't have specific use cases, the value prop is getting hard for me, because all in on a Pi, you're over $100. If you start talking about your hard drive, your micro SD, and everything else. Anyways, I hope you get one. You know what you want. You know what you're going after. I hope you get one. And I hope it's decently priced. L'Eternal Debutant. That's what I'm going with. I'm sure it's not that, but I'm going with L'Eternal Debutant. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Trevor, storage and hosts were already provisions in the HomeLab with the same certificates. Got my own CA. I set up NSXT for use as my load balancer with a /25 used for ingress prefix, and another /25 is my egress prefix. Then I'm using /21 for the internal Kubernetes network. You know what you're doing. That's awesome, man. Clear Blue, is Metal LB mandatory? No. Let me explain real quick what Metal LB is and why you might need it. And then you can decide if it's mandatory, because it's up to you. So in a cloud, when you run Kubernetes, there's a cloud load balancer, basically an API interface, that when you request a load balancer in your cluster, it will communicate with that cloud load balancer and say, hey, I'm trying to open up to the public. Give me a public IP, right? Give me a public IP. I want one. And so that's what, a load balancer in Kubernetes does. And if you're in the cloud will say, sure, we'll hand you one. That's $10 a month or whatever. Yeah, we'll hand you as many as you want. Well, if you're self-hosting Kubernetes and you're running K3S or anything, you're self-hosting Kubernetes, you don't have that cloud load balancer there, right? You don't have a cloud load balancer. You have your own load balancer. It's not AWS's load balancer. It's not, Google's load balancer, Azure. So it has no idea on how to poke that hole in the firewall and say, give me an IP address. And so what Metal LB does is simulate that. And so Metal LB will simulate that cloud load balancer and listen for those requests. And so if your Kubernetes cluster says, hey, give me a load balancer IP, Metal LB will say, hey, I just got a request for a load balancer IP. I have this range I can use. Here's one. And that's what it does. It does a lot more stuff, and there's so many ways you can tweak it. But, to boil it all down to what it does, that's exactly what it does. And so it'll take an IP from your range and say, here you go, service. Your load balancer can have this external IP. Now that IP can be anything you want, because with MinLB you set up a range. And so why would you need that? The next piece is like, okay, I understand what it does. Why would I need that? Or is it mandatory? Well, it's how do I say this? It's mostly mandatory if you want to expose stuff publicly. I'll say that, right? Because that's mostly true. There's a lot of edge cases where you can do some stuff you probably shouldn't do, but anyways. So I'd say it's mandatory if you want to expose a service behind this load balancer you asked for in Kubernetes, which is the way you should be doing it. Like, you shouldn't run a service on a specific node and then, point your other things to that one node and expect that pod to be on that node, because Kubernetes could move that pod around. It could move that pod around, right? And so So the load balancer in Kubernetes stands in front of this pod. So I don't know how this is working. Is this my load balancer? We'll say this is your load balancer. This is your pod. Your pod could be on this node, or your pod could be on this node, or your pod could be on this node. And so you never want to point it directly to a pod or directly to a node because, it could hop around. So your load balancer solves all that. And so is it mandatory? If you're going to expose any kind of service outside of your cluster, that's what I would say. Inside of your cluster, you kind of could, you should, I don't know. If it's inside of your cluster, you should have a load balancer, and you should have, if you have multiple replicas, but you could do this with the service load balancer. So never mind. Only if you're going to expose things outside of your cluster. So where would you do that? Like a website or WordPress or Minecraft or anything like that? Yes, you would want to use MinLLB. For some job that's running internally, would you need it? No, because you don't need to expose that. For some background job that you're running, or some compute thing you're running, or you're crunching numbers, or you're doing something, you don't need it. So only if you want to expose things outside of your cluster. Hopefully that helps. That was a long explanation. But that's what I would use it for. That's its primary use case. Let's see. You're using a different load balancer. Panic switched. I have successfully decommissioned my 12U server rack and replaced it with a more power efficient 3 mini PC Proxmox cluster. LOL. Now I have to figure out what I want to use to load balance it. We were just talking about this. Yeah. What were you using for your load balance? Now I need to figure out what I want to use to load balance. Yeah, what were you using before? I assume then if you did all that, I assume you probably had a virtualized version of pfSense, and from there you did load balancing on pfSense. I'm just guessing. But if you're downsizing and you're using mini PCs, now you don't have PCI Express slots, so you probably were using NICs in your bigger servers. I'm totally speculating. But yeah, I've done something similar with two of my 3 servers now, and it's it's kind of nice. Like I said, I use less power, it generates less heat, and so it's a twofer for me. Less power, and then it generates less heat, which means the fans turn on less, which means my air conditioning turns on less. So it's 2 for 1 for sure. Let's see. So Kira says, yeah, I think the best approach. I've also tried Nginx Proxy Manager. It's easier to set up, and I've seen it's full of vulnerabilities and less updated and secure than traffic. Yeah, it's you'll get that. You'll get that with a lot of open source projects. Anything that's small or doesn't get enough attention, you'll get that. As soon as a CVE comes out, it's up to the maintainer to patch those. And if the maintainer can't or doesn't have time, then they don't get patched. So yeah, traffic is, there's a business behind traffic, so there's incentive for them to patch those things. With a lot of open source projects, you can think of it as people volunteering. And if the people volunteering don't have time or access or care, they might not get to it. So how can you help them? Well, you can help them by supporting those projects. If they're motivated maybe by money or contributions, that can help. That can help for sure. If you sponsor a GitHub project, that's motivation for someone to keep doing what they're doing. So, the onus isn't always on the person creating the thing, for sure, because they're volunteers for the most part. Let's see, Kira. Also, Cloudflare Tunnel might be an option. Yeah, for sure. Cloudflare Tunnel might be an option. I didn't mention that. Good point. When I first read that, that's what I thought in my head. I was like, I'm going to go 2 ways. I'm going to go the reverse proxy because I do that. But yeah, absolutely, Cloudflare Tunnels is a way to do it too. So if you're not familiar with Cloudflare Tunnels, it's a tunneling solution. So you could basically tunnel out. So if you're behind NAT or not even behind NAT, if you don't want to poke holes in your firewall, it does like a reverse tunnel out to an endpoint up in Cloudflare's cloud, and then you can have your exit point be in Cloudflare's cloud with a secure tunnel going all the way down to your service. And so that might be a route to go. I haven't gone that route. I have a reverse proxy. I've talked about this a few times. I have a reverse proxy in place. I like the way my architecture is now. I still do use Cloudflare for their DNS and their reverse proxy solution, so I still get the protection. But I don't know, something about allowing these processes to run on my machine and then automatically poke holes or automatically basically bypass my firewall and get in. That's what it boils down to for me. Not saying they're not secure or anything like that, just an architecture decision that I made, that I don't want things to bypass my own firewall, where I can do my own, inspection and scrutinization of all that traffic coming in. It's great. It's great in a lot of use cases, and it's the only way you could do it behind like CGNAT or something like that, or double NAT or anything like that. It helps bring your services to the edge, but I have a way to bring them to the edge myself. So Cheddar Keys, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. 18-wheel Bray. Let's see. Tim, testing out a new 1U rack mount solution for the Dell 1 liters. You have Dells, not HPs. All right. It came from Austria. Good eye, mate. No, I know. Came from Austria, but has some drawbacks, as the rails were not full length for the cabinet. Oh, that's too bad. You'll have to let me know. You send some pictures. Put some pictures in Discord, because I want to see them. I'm all about. That was not me farting. That was my dog Nano snoring. If you heard that, I feel he snores and does these loud snores all the time, and I feel like I have to explain myself. No, that's not. My dog's in here snoring. I promise. He's kind of right there. You can kind of see him. He's black and white right down there. I don't know if you heard that, but anyways, not me. It was my dog, I promise. And it's not a dad joke. Like, yeah, it was the dogs or the barking spiders, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, you blame the dog. I know. 100% my dog. He's right there, and he snores a lot. Anyways, Shunned Ones, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But Ray, yeah, post it in Discord. I'd love to see it. I'm a fan of, I bought an Intel NUC rack mount kit, and I mounted them in there. And I love it. I know they're a little bit spendy, I guess, pricey. I usually say pricey. Minnesotans here say spendy. I guess I'm Minnesotan now because I say spendy. Anyways, it is kind of pricey, but at the same time, it's exactly what I want and exactly what I need, and it works great. And I'll have it for forever until I get rid of Intel NUCs, and it works great. So. You'll have to let me know, because I like seeing these machined solutions for like these super niche problems to try to get things in rack mounts. I mean, same with 3D printing things for rack mounts. I love it because people are solving these super niche problems, and now with the power of 3D printing, they can do it. And even with the power of machining metal too, they can do it too. So it's pretty cool. Big Linter. Today, relaxed Saturday, changed some of my bash automation scripts for speed and efficiency, upgrading LXC container. Awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. Sounds sweet. I probably need to brush up my bash scripts too. I have a handful of them that I use. I mostly switch to Ansible for most things, but even those can be cleaned up. But upgrading LXC containers, that is awesome. That is, it's good to do. That's good practice to keep things up to date. My patch day is typically on Sunday, although I do get bored and fire off my Ansible scripts to update everything. And then I do patch all of my containers as they come through with Renovate. So I have a bot that helps me, that opens pull requests on my Kubernetes cluster to then patch my containers, which then after I approve and merge it in, it gets automatically deployed. Yeah, I told you I make things complicated. Let's see. Sammy, that's what I'm going with. Hey, hello, Tim. How was your day? Day was pretty good. Honestly, it was pretty good. Last night, my wife and I were driving, and we heard this noise. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I was like, it's a rock or it's a nail in the tire. And I was like, it's probably rock. Yeah, not NBD. No big deal. It's probably rock. Well, when we pulled over and looked, it was a screw head. Like, I've never seen a screw head this big. But a screw head with a washer on it totally like went into our tire directly in the tread so it can be patched. And the screw head on it is probably a half an inch big. I mean, it's a big screw head. So as you're driving, it's super loud. So anyways, we saw that last night. I was like, I'll get it repaired. I'll go to the repair place down the street. In the morning, I'll wake up and just go there because she needed the car. And I was like, you're going to have to ask your friend to drive. Anyways, long story short, we only have one car. So I was like, I probably shouldn't drive to Minnetonka, which is, 45 minutes away on this. Anyways, I went there. And they were like, yeah, it's going to be, you can drop your car off. You can leave it here all day. We might be able to get to it, and it's going to be $40. And I was like, ooh, that's, I mean, $40 doesn't sound like much, but, one tire is $99. At what point do I just buy a new tire versus getting this tire patched? So anyways, I had to kind of run around and deal with that this morning and figure out who can do it. And turns out, everyone's booked up, so I'm just going to drive on it for 4 or 5 days until I can get into the dealership. Anyways, long story short, my day's going pretty good. I had a little curveball thrown at me this morning, and I thought, yeah, I'll just go right down the street, this place that I trust, and I still trust them. But at the same time, the last time I got a tire patch, I remember it being like $10 to where they would be like, yeah, we're just going to give it to you for free. And I was like, sweet. And not that I expect anything for free ever. But my mind frame is, yeah, I'll pay $10, $20. But when it's getting into $40 and $49.99, that's kind of like, that's half of a new tire, of a decent tire, I think. Anyways, oh yeah, okay. Set of 4 tires, $1,200. Oh man, maybe I have an old frame of reference, but I don't know. So, anyways, so yeah, that's. I mean, it's no big, like I said, no big deal. Oh, and then they told me, so maybe it is like, maybe I do have an old frame of reference, because I was like, don't you guys like use the plug? Because I said, I need my tire plug. First thing he said was, we don't plug tires anymore. We patch them. We take them off. We have to patch them, and then we have to put them back on, and then we have to balance your tire and all that. I was like, oh, okay. So that explained why it was going to be, I don't want to say they were gouging. That's not what they were doing, but because they don't use the plug process anymore, where they, with a plug, they would take this weird thing that kind of looks like a little Tootsie Roll or something that's all rubbery. I don't know, I'm making this up. And they would push it in the hole, and it would fold in there, and then the pressure would seal it up. That's how I remembered tires being fixed. But now they say they use a patch, which they have to take the whole tire off, which means they have to rebalance the whole thing all over again. So yeah, that's kind of what I was going. I thought plugs were still fine too. And so that's when I was like, okay, he opened my eyes to, okay, they use patches now, and because they have to take it off the rim, they have to rebalance it. So I totally get why it's expensive now. I'm kind of with you too, that I think plugs are okay. Like, what was different about plugs for 70 years, 80 years of driving cars with rubber tires to where they're not okay now? I'm kind of like that too. Yeah, I know. But for the plug kit, then I'll need to, if I buy the plug kit on Amazon, like I've done it before in the past. I've done it. It has that weird little twisty thing. It almost looks like a corkscrew. I've done it before in the past on an old car when I was younger. But I don't want to say my new house. Where I live now, I don't have a safe place to jack up my car and take the tire off. And I'm making a lot of excuses, but I don't. I really don't. I can't do it in my garage. It's so small. And, anyways, like I'm totally fine with paying someone to do it. I have no problem doing that. And even if that's how much it costs for a patch, I kind of balked at it when he said it. I kind of balked, and I was like, wait, what? And then when he told me, hey, we don't plug anymore, we do this, I get it. And at the same time, like, they have to pay a technician to do that. It's probably going to be a half hour of their time, if not more. And technicians need to get paid, and they make a decent, they need to make a decent wage. So after he explained it, I was like, I totally get it. But then I thought, I'll check around. Well, checking around wasn't helpful either, because everyone was booked up. So that was my morning. Nothing like major, but that's what I was trying to deal with this morning. So anyways, that's what happens when you ask about how my day's going. It's going pretty good. Like that's nothing. Like, $40, sure. I was surprising to me. And if I had a different home and a garage, I would totally do it myself. Like that would have been something I would have done this morning. I wouldn't even have thought twice. I would have been like, okay, jack the car up, put the jack stands on, make sure it's safe, throw the tire under just in case after you pull it out, and then pick the screw out, clean it up, put the plug in, air it up to the correct PSI, put it back on, and we're done. I used to do car repair stuff when I was younger because I had no choice, because I didn't have a lot of money. Not that I do now, but I just had like zero money. So it was like, if I'm going to fix something on my car, I was like, okay, I need money for the parts. That's it. Go down to AutoZone or the junkyard and get the part I need and do it myself. And ask my brother to help me, because he knew everything about cars. Still does. So Anyways, Bill Nash, Sup Nerds. Sorry, I vented on that one for a long time. I want to make sure that I get to maybe another question or two. I do have a lot of stuff going on, so I do have to cut it on time today. But here's one that seems, I don't know, clicking on it because it has a lot of words. Will say, Tim, don't catch your stream much, but your YouTube videos do inspire me to help me out, get more into self-hosting. Hey, thank you so much. I thought this was going to be a bash one. No, you guys are nice. Have some services built out at the moment. My favorite thing I've done is set up a music server on my NAS, so now I can run my own music server like Spotify with my own music and not pay to rent their music anymore. Hey, yeah, that is awesome. The absolute value. I wonder what you're using. There's a couple out there. You know, I know Plex has one, but that's, I think, paid. But if you already have Plex Pass, it's already included. But then there's the not Spotify or something like that. Anyways, I like buying music from Bandcamp, knowing more money goes to the artists I like rather than spending pennies for streaming royalties. Hey, that is super nice. You'll have to let me know what you use. There is a service. It's called something like, there's a self-hosted service that basically is 100% Spotify knockoff, and it looks great. And it's called something like My Spotify. I think it's called My Spotify. So I'm curious what you're using, absolute value. If you're still out there, if you're not, throw it into Discord, because I would love to know what you're using and what you found helpful. I've been thinking about using that thing called My Spotify and dusting off all my old MP3s from 20 years ago. Yeah, but awesome. Let me know what you're using, because it sounds interesting for sure. I'm gonna hop around mainly because I do have to wrap it up, and two, I have to go to the bathroom. That's why I'm swiveling back and forth. Panic Switch, still debating if I want to re-up going back to K3s Kubernetes or running my lab just with LXC containers on Proxmox with a reverse proxy load balancer in front of it. K3s would let me add in my pies, but at the same time, may not need my pies to be in the loop, LOL. Yeah, it's tough. I did that before too. So I did multi-architecture Kubernetes. And I thought, yeah, I got some pies. Like, why not add them to my cluster? Yeah, it lasted for about a day. So it was cool. It worked. Like, I have a WordPress blog that I run. One day, I didn't even think about it, and my WordPress blog was running on my Raspberry Pi because, my Kubernetes node, for some reason, decided, hey, you don't belong here anymore. Get on the Raspberry Pi, and it went on the Raspberry Pi, and it was fine. And it was running fine. The only thing I will say is, as you start to, if you grow your cluster and you start to add things like storage, like you start to add Longhorn, or you start to do other things, or even pull down lots of containers, the Pi has a hard time keeping up. And most of it isn't because of compute. Like, the compute on there is pretty good. You get a 4-core or whatever, it's still underpowered for a lot of things you want to do, but not for, like, websites and stuff like that. But where it starts to get in trouble is like when you start to do, say, like Longhorn on there. That micro SD isn't going to be able to handle it. And that micro SD can barely handle, like, pulling big images too. So, and that micro SD can barely handle, like, if you set up a cluster-wide logging, with Loki or whatever you want to run, it starts to, it's almost too much I/O for the micro SD card. I mean, yes, you might burn it out. I'm not even going down that path. I'm just talking about just the I/O. So if you spin up a new, this would happen to me all the time. It kept saying my pods are offline, my node, my Raspberry Pi node is offline, and I figured it out. It was because when a new pod came on there, if a Docker image wasn't there already or a container image wasn't there, it had to pull it down. Sometimes that's 200-300 megs. Doesn't sound like much, right? Well, when you're writing that to a micro SD card, with everything else that's going on that it's reading and writing to, like logs for Kubernetes, it's like way too much. And so, like, my pod would be in a crash loop, even though it didn't need to. And then, like, after 2 crash loops, the image was finally done downloading, and so then it would run. So I ran into that a lot. Not saying that there isn't a use case for them. Like, they're great, and I love this idea of having a very low powered node on my network that can handle being on for hours, but at the same time, unless I'm going to go and either do NFS over the network, or mount my OS over the network, or plug in SSDs to all of them. It's tough on a micro SD card for Kubernetes. And not because the wear out, because the I/O. Just micro SD is super slow. I mean, it's like the slowest of all storage, out there. Within reason. It's really slow, and so it has a hard time with like lots of little operations or big operations. Basically, all operations micro SD is not handled for. So, anyways, I'm not here to bash Raspberry Pis. I was just saying, like, for Kubernetes, it gets tough. Like, it's great for a test little lab and you want to spin up some stuff, but once you start doing real stuff, it gets really hard just because the disk I/O. And you could solve that by attaching, SSDs to them, and that would solve most of it. So, but that's not a path I wanted to go down. Once I started thinking about that, I thought about, well, now I'm over what a mini PC would cost, and if I go that route, I get 4x more compute, RAM, you name it. So. Anyways, there's so many comments. I do apologize, but I do have to wrap it up. Wow, thank you so much for showing up today. It was kind of a surprise stream. I think people who knew I wasn't, people in Discord who knew I wasn't on yesterday. I said, hey, I'll be on Saturday, and so most people didn't know. So I appreciate you showing up and being here, and thank you so much. I didn't say this last time. I always feel guilty after I say it, but I always really do mean it. But thank you so much for the bits, for the follows, for the subs, for the resubs. I really appreciate it. It honestly really helps now that I'm kind of doing this. I hate to say I'm doing content full time because I'm technically not. I'm still doing consulting, but then that just gets weird to say I'm not doing it. But so I kind of am. So I really do appreciate subs, bits, follows, and I really do appreciate for you being here in chat. Like if you all weren't here in chat, this would be a boring stream. This would be a boring stream and probably a really short one. So I really appreciate it. And, just you chatting here and talking about your struggles or talking about things you're excited about is super helpful because it inspires me in my content moving forward. So when I start thinking about, hey, someone talked about this product or this service, those are things that slowly work their way into some of my content. So I really appreciate it. So yeah, hey, have a great Saturday. Have a great rest of the weekend. I will be back Friday on Twitch, and I'll hopefully have something out for you this week on YouTube. Like I said, 2 videos in the pipeline. I got to get one done so, a brand I'm working with can approve it. But then fast follow on my next one, which is not branded at all. It's something super fun that I do on my machine all the time, and I thought you guys should know about it. So anyway, your Spotify. Thank you, Sanal. Not my Spotify. It's your Spotify. Thank you. I appreciate it. I knew it was called something Spotify. Your Spotify, and it's really good. They've done a great job at like knocking off Spotify and giving you something like Spotify that you can self-host with your own music. And I think it looks really cool. I haven't done anything with it, but I think it looks great. So yeah. So anyways, have a great rest of the weekend. Take care and be good to each other. Take care, folks.